And what is going on, everybody? And we continue with the Bushwackers Breakdown with a look at There is a Balrog Under the House. So the synopsis is a lady calls in the Bushwhackers saying, hey, there's something weird going on at our house. The furnace isn't on, but it just gets extraordinarily hot in the house for some weird reason. Do you think it's an HVAC issue? And the Bushwhackers are like, yeah, we can take a look and see what's going on. They go through the motions of just checking to see what's going on here, but Luca is acting a little bit odd. He steps on the ground for a few minutes and he reveals a trap door, and the trio go in there and they discover a large cavern when suddenly a monstrous Balrog, a fire demon, pops out and causes chaos and destruction. The trio run back into the tunnel where Luca proposes an extraordinary solution of killing it with baking soda. So they send Lee to the kitchen to get the baking soda. Luca mixes it with water in his army canteen, and they use Lee as the bait while Luca leaps on top of the Balrog, pours the concoction into the monster's head, and kills it. They then drag the creature outside, where it's revealed that it has been the cause of the unusual heating situation in the neighborhood, and the day is saved. So, a typical episode of heroes saving the day. So why a Balrog, or Balrog for some purists? Well, I remember talking to a coworker about the upcoming Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power series that was supposed to debut on Amazon, and I think this was around 2020, 2021-ish. I remember this was after I was recovering from COVID back in April, but the idea came to me because I'd also been watching the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy, and I thought, that would be interesting if the Bushwhackers had to confront a Balrog. And then it got the wheels turning in my head, because then I was thinking, well, how would they confront a Balrog? Because initially I thought, that might be interesting if they travel to Middle Earth, but I just thought that was a cop-out. So I eventually came up with the idea of a Balrog just having to live in a cavern, underneath someone's house, or underneath someone's basement. And the title itself is just pretty self-explanatory. Oh, you've got a Balrog under the house. It's sort of like... the way the title runs, it sounds like something that an exterminator would say. Oh, you've got rats or cockroaches under your floorboards or whatever. But I wanted to use a Balrog as a villain / monster, because I just thought it was such an interesting thing, and plus it would act as a link to the Lord of the Rings. Not that it's part of the Lord of the Rings universe, but it was just a link to something that I enjoyed so much watching as a kid. But the idea of taking something extraordinary and putting it in something so mundane, I thought was just too good of an opportunity to pass up. Because if you think about it, how often do people write stories about fire demons living underneath someone's house and causing HVAC and plumbing issues? That's not something that you see every day. It's not a run-of-the-mill story. So for me, that was something that I figured, that actually might be pretty interesting to take a look at and run with. So that's what I did. I thought, a Balrog is a familiar creature. We'll definitely go with that and just have it do normal Balrog things, and these ordinary guys who killed a giant worm only a few weeks ago will have a go at killing a primordial creature that is the embodiment of evil and fury. So in terms of writing it, I mean, I could have made it a much longer episode, but I really wanted to keep it really short, just the basics. I mean, for me, when it comes to writing these episodes, I mean, unless I've got a Amazon or Netflix deal or whatever, I usually try to keep it short because I'm usually the one running the production for everything, because even a short script that's like 5 pages long, there you can have like 10 to 12 pages of panels just that's full of drawings, and that can be a lot to get through. So when I wrote it, I wanted to be aware of just how much action I wanted to portray in those panels, but at the same time I didn't want it to be boring. And the settings themselves are, I guess you could say it's a bottle episode as well, just like with the previous episode of Lee Loves TV, because of the fact that it mainly takes place in that woman's house. I mean, the cave is technically part of the lady's house too, because it's underneath the house. But there's a lot more action going on as a result. Now, in terms of the design of the Balrog, I didn't want to have it be like a copy of the one that you see in the Peter Jackson films, with the curved horn and the weird face. I wanted to give it my own take. And I know some people are saying, well, a Balrog has to look a certain way, because if it doesn't look like that, it's technically not a Balrog. But I don't know. I just think people like that, those super fans, as much as I can applaud them for their enthusiasm, at the same time I'm like, dude, just whatever, just fuck off. And I do take a dig at those fans too, later on in the episode. But I wanted, but that aside, I mean, I definitely wanted to give my own spin on how a Balrog looked in my episode. Now that doesn't mean Balrogs can't look different. I just wanted it to look a certain way because I wanted it to reflect my choice of design. So that was just another thing I wanted to address right there. Now the big one is killing a Balrog with baking soda and water. Yeah, I know a lot of people will take issue with that. Again, it just goes back to the concept of taking something extraordinary and putting it in a mundane situation that gives it that level of humor. I think. I think for something that extraordinary, people think, oh, it has to be destroyed using, lightning, someone from the sky, or white magic, or nuclear weapons, if you want to delve into the contemporary culture. But nobody would think, just like with the idea of a Balrog living in someone's house, no one would ever think, oh, if it's a fire demon, you can kill it by pouring baking soda into its head. And again, that's why I wrote it, because, I mean, I guess you could say it's sort of a Deus Ex Machina, it's sort of a cop-out, I guess, but at the same time, it's, in my mind, I wrote it because I thought it was just a really ridiculous concept, and it's something that no one would see coming, and it's something that, to me, is a novel idea, because as far as I know, there haven't been any comics or cartoons or anything in the past that said, oh, we've killed a Balrog with baking soda. So, if I'm the first to, bring that up, hooray, yay me. But I definitely at least wanted to, give my own take on the whole monster. Not only in the way it's been designed, but where it lives, and also how you dispatch it too. So the next thing that occurred to me was, is this a horror movie? Well, not a horror movie, but is this horror or action? And I would say I guess you could say it's both, just because you have this creature that's so menacing and destructive and you don't know what to do. But if I was hard pressed and someone said, what would you say it is? Is it either horror or action? You got to choose either one. I would say, well, it's an action. It's an action adventure for the most part. Just because there's a lot going on, and the guys are motivated to confront this creature and bring it down, so it's not causing any harm or destruction or further destruction to the neighborhood. Now, how did they get the thing out? Well, I guess it's up to you to decide. Winches and pulleys. I mean, it is a giant ass thing. To think that 3 guys could just lift, that giant monster out. I mean, for all we know, maybe it was heavy because of the fire, and once the fire got put out, it became as light as tufa. I don't know. I mean, again, it's just one of those situations where I just enjoy writing an episode where there really isn't a clear resolution. It just happens and it just ends like that. So that's pretty much my my thought process when it comes to writing that episode. I do want to touch a little bit on the cover. When I was contemplating a good design cover, I kept thinking, well, what would be a good cover for that episode? I didn't want to copy the movie posters of Lord of the Rings movies, just because I felt there was too much going on. I wanted it to be very simplistic, very minimalistic. And I remember reading an article about the romantic artists of the early 19th century, and there was this one artist, I think it was Caspar David Friedrich. I think I'm getting the name right, and he painted these weird Gothic paintings that just showed churches in decay and they were in ruins. I definitely encourage you to take a look at them, but they're very surreal, but they're very grounded in reality too, because there are ruins of churches and cathedrals and castles all over Europe. So I thought, what, I might have a go at that. I might try to create something similar to those romantic paintings, and I did, and I played around with the coloring and in Autodesk Sketchbook, and the first thing I did was I started off with the sky, because when you look at that romantic painting, it has it's this sort of dark and gloomy color palette, a very earth tone. The sky looks brown and gray and black, and that's what I wanted to capture. So I started off with the sky, and then I drew the Balrog, and it's just this lonesome monster that's just roaming the wasteland in the ruins of an old Gothic church. Now, if it's a primordial being, obviously you'd say, well, it really shouldn't be, stomping around in the middle of a deserted, graveyard. But I figured, with a fire demon, juxtaposed in a romantic painting Gothic setting, I thought that fitted perfectly with the entire mood of the story, I think. So yeah, so definitely the cover was heavily borrowed from classical paintings like that, and that's not going to be the first time, because there are other covers where I've drawn heavily from paintings from the 19th century, like David's The Oath of the Herati, which I later used as the inspiration for The Way to Eternity, or Delacroix's Liberty Leading the People, which would be the cover for Emerald Curse. So really me designing the cover for Balrog pretty much set the ball rolling in terms of me drawing inspiration from these classical 19th century paintings to sort of inform my design language when it came to designing the covers for these stories. So What are my final thoughts on this episode? Well, I mean, there's not much. It's an episode I enjoyed writing. I thought it was one of the funniest things that I'd ever done. It was an opportunity for me to use a Balrog, a well-known creature, but give it my own take, kind of put my own spin on it. So it's not, so it isn't just a copy and paste format of what Peter Jackson had done, but to make it my own. And I know some people will say, well, it's Balrog in name only, it looks nothing like it, and that's fine. I mean, my suggestion to you is if you think that way, go and do your own story, go do your own thing. But I wanted to take something that I enjoyed, give it my own take, and just go with that. And I think that's what all writers do. That's what all writers and artists do, is to take something that they love, give their own spin, and just run with it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, if you have any questions or thoughts, please feel free to comment below. But thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next Bushwackers Breakdown. Take it easy.